Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. My guest for today is Isaac Knox. He is a very talented battle rapper, improviser, and freestyle rapper originally hailing from Orlando, Florida. This is a man of many hats, which I admire. He does workshops, he does battles, he does shows. He has an entire freestyle collective called Free Daps that is doing shows and workshops all around the country, but soon concentrating in New York City. We talk about the creative rhythm and flow of his day. We talk about his dreams and ambitions of where he would like to be. And we talk about why everyone, and yes, that includes you, dear listener, should try freestyling at least a couple of times because it is such a gift. If you're curious about why, I encourage you to listen. This is my conversation with Isaac. Beautiful. So the first question I have for you, because the way that I got introduced to you was watching you in a battle, was that the worst you've ever destroyed someone? Like where in the annals of battles? Because the poor person
which
across
battle was
from
it?
you,
Do you remember?
at Caroline's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that poor man, oh boy. And I know it's all love, and that's part of what's beautiful about battles. It's like you go at each other, but at the end you hug it out. But good gravy, he got steamrolled.
Well, I mean, first of all, shout out to Reggie Cush for putting that together, and
For sure.
And we're still waiting on the footage because I selfishly want to watch that one back. Man, so it was one of the biggest, from how it felt to me, like discrepancies, but to be fair, there weren't a lot of people on that event that were actual battle rappers. And I'm not sure that even Reggie, when he booked me, knew that I had a decade in the battle rap world. I think it was a lot of comics who also rap. And I'm more of a rapper who's also a comic. You know what I mean? Like that's the direction I come from.
For sure.
And yet you never know what kind of an environment you're going to walk into. So it worked out really nicely. What I was nervous about going into it was, as you know, the New York comedy scene is so segmented. It's so big that there's sort of been this like self-segregation, which is actually my biggest beef with the New York comedy scene. But that being said, I was like, I don't know how battle rap's going to fit. I'd never done Caroline's before. And I'm like, I don't know what sort of like audience or for lack of a more nuanced term, I don't know what the sensitivities in the room are going to be. So how hard do I go? And very quickly, I was like, oh, this is like a smack URL battle rap environment. Like people are trying to eat each other alive. But there's a lot of comics coming that are presenting a little bit more like they might in a character show or in a stand-up set or they might at a Brooklyn mic, right? Yes. And so my opponent, who's a talented comic and comedian and improviser and rapper and all those things, but he just, the energy he brought wasn't what the room was asking for. And so I responded. I wanted to come out the gate as quick as possible with some rebuttals. I wanted to change the temperature in the room, let people know like, oh, this is a guy that does this. And it went my way, man. I didn't even get halfway through my material. But yeah.
Which for the record, like the whole room was sad about. We were like, no, keep going. Like, I'm sure the person you were across from was like, no, please, fuck, make it stop. But the rest of us were like, no, more. We would like more, please.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, of course, man. Like it was a wonderful event. It was weird as shit. Like for listener context. So I think it was the first ever rap battle at Caroline's. So again, not necessarily an organic setting for it, but you're in New York, which means your ability to attract any audience to any place in the city is certainly better than it is in a lot of places. And it was a week. It was like was it a Tuesday? It was not like a Friday or Saturday. It was like a Tuesday night.
It was a random night. My parents were in town. I was like showing my parents around the city right before. Then they went to their hotel. Amazing. No, then we saw Hadestown. We saw the musical Hadestown together. And then my parents they're past their bedtime. Their carriage had turned into a pumpkin. And then I just went and did a rap battle.
Casually. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. So you've been in this for 10 years. Like how did you start? Where did you start? that whole
Yeah,
origin
so
story.
I started in Orlando, where there's a few different seeds that were planted for the like modern battle rap scene of a cappella, YouTube, pre-written battles. But a big part of that was a league called Grind Time that started here in Orlando. So around when that was starting, I was entering the local hip hop scene from growing up here, wanting to be a rap artist, all these different things. And when I got into the scene, there was a lot of freestyle rap. So there were rap battle tournaments all the time, ciphers and stuff. And so I then very quickly became aware of Grind Time and was like, I want to be a part of this. Did my tryout battle at the end of 2010 and my first official battles in early 2011. And yeah, there was a time where that was like the most active branch of what I do was rap battles. And it's something that I never want to retire from, because it's a way to sort of like make sure you've sharpened your sword, make sure that you can
Yep.
still do this. It's almost like a defense against imposter syndrome, especially as someone who's performed in theme parks. It's like I need to know that I can still go to a rap battle event and I still got it. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's so fascinating. But so it invites a question. It sounds like you had an interest in becoming a rapper or getting into the hip hop scene in Orlando. Like, was that from when you were little? Was that like you heard an album and it changed your life? Like, what sort of started that journey?
Yeah, a little bit. It's the first rap records I was allowed to listen to was by a group called DC Talk, which was a Christian group that was basically Run DMC in within a church context.
Okay.
And that's the first thing I was allowed to listen to. And but I remember just loving it and was fascinated with words from an early age. Also, my first love is basketball, and hip hop was kind of the soundtrack of the sport. So I was
Yep.
just like, that was there was a huge blend of influences there. And so, yeah, I like by the end of elementary school, I was like trying to write my first raps. And then in ninth grade, I started my first rap group, and like freestyling and battle rap was a nice combo of all the things I liked, because I was also a theater kid. And of course, as like someone who played basketball, like the competitiveness of battle rap and all that, there was something about that felt like it was a similar muscle or scratched the same itch. So like freestyle battle rap was like, it's hip hop, it's theater and improv, it's sport. It's like, yeah, so it just checked all my boxes.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like in general, when you're in like middle and high school, people tend to select into a category. You are a jock, or you are a theater kid, or you are into music. It sounds like kind of from the jump, you always had your hand in like a number of different pots. Like when you look back, was that rare, or was that like just kind of the culture you were in?
Um, I would say that it felt normal in my household. That was something that was
Mm,
like something I'm really grateful for, is that like my immediate family and my extended family was a great mix of interests. It's a huge mix of ethnicities. There's a big like cultural intersection that was my family. And so I think all things felt comfortable and encouraged there. But within my school, it was a little bit more of a rarity for better and worse. Like I was the kid where during lunch I didn't have a group that I didn't have like my group. I would
right.
just sort of hop around. A lot of people I could say hi to, but I wasn't invited to everyone's birthday party, but I knew them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I was that kind of person. And weirdly enough, because like many people, like especially when you're going through like middle school and stuff, dealing with who am I, do like all the regular kid growing up stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I found like I sort of found myself in theater, and in finding myself there and feeling like I could be whatever I wanted to be and be welcomed in that, uh, like that bringing the authenticity out of me is what actually improved my relationships in the locker room, playing basketball or football or volleyball with the guys, or when I wanted to like jump into a cafeteria rap cipher, like whereas I feel like had I not found a group that let me be myself, there would have been this. You would have been able to smell the like inauthentic. He's playing a character. He's trying to be us, which is sort of what I felt like I was all through middle school. and couldn't make friends. And then when I stopped trying to, I made friends. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Like a funny pivot from there. So like battle rap certainly lends itself toward aggression, attacking, etc. It also like I have very little exposure to the scene or to battles in general. I've watched plenty, but like I've never, other than that one time, sort of been in the room.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, and not that you need to call anyone out, do you find that's an environment that tends toward authenticity or one that tends toward putting on airs and creating a persona for the sake of the battle?
Man, I would say that an analogy that gets used a lot by a lot of battle rappers, it's pretty accurate, is that it's similar to WWE, where there is a character that you play into a lot of times. And to be perfectly honest, I should play into some of those things more. I think that I sort of switch up styles round to round, battle to battle, just sort of because otherwise I'd get bored. But overall, the most effective battle rappers do lean into a type. It's better for branding. It helps even people want to battle you because they can better prepare for you or better advertise what it's going to be. Like it is a valuable thing. I mean, in comedy, knowing your voice, knowing how somebody's going to pitch you, right? So there is. It's not that it's inauthentic, but it is a show, and there is an element of character in that. And I would say that for the most part, and there's obviously negative exceptions, but for the most part, there's this therapeutic nature of it where people hanging out at the battle event, like, are themselves, are cool. No one's trying to be cooler than they are. I just had a battle here in Orlando last week, and my opponent, he's like, and I'm already pretty tall. He's taller than me, and this bigger dude from Maryland, and his projection is crazy. And he basically, like, he can shout on you, talk down to you. He's also a brilliant writer, but like a big, big in your face performer. Sweetest, most soft-spoken, borderline teddy bear, like outside of the ring. Like, you know, he and I have been like chopping it up ever since. That's another thing, is usually when you battle each other, you're sort of like bonded for life. Like you sort of share that. So that's something that happens a lot. The thing I used to talk about early in the battle rap community is, you go to these big events and everybody's tearing each other apart, sometimes even crossing the line about, I saw that your sister did this, and, like whatever, and like really going after people at a personal level. But then we all go to like Waffle House or Denny's or Steak and Shake, and everybody's either freestyling or roasting each other or just whatever it is till 3 a.m. And so, yeah, I would say that it's extremely authentic outside the ring, but we're all putting on a show.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. For you, like, I guess there's two ways to look at this. Like, either when you watch other people battle, what do you most admire about the performance of others? Or I guess like it's going to be an and, because I'm curious about both. And then for you, when you finish a battle, like what needs to have happened within yourself, within your performance to be like, yeah, I fucking slayed that.
What I admire about other people's performances is, I think that some people are so good. We were just talked about how there's an element of character, and some people are so good at committing to the bit, even to the point where it's like, I don't know if I could say that authentically, even as I commit comedically. I can commit to something absurd, but there are certain elements where I go, wow, that this person made me believe them, even though I know that's probably not a real piece of who they are.
Right.
I think that's impressive. I think that people finding new patterns and new ways to flip a rhyme or flip a name, I think that that's really impressive. I think that really unique angles that get pulled off, that's something I'm always attracted to, that I try to write when I can, is like, what's an angle that hasn't been taken on this subject before, and how do I sell it? Maybe even on purpose, I'm not going to the like easy flips or easy angles here, because I'm guessing that's been said to them multiple times. So what's something that I feel like no one would have thought of, and maybe it's not even a good idea unless you can pull it off, That's the challenge that excites me. So I love seeing that in other people, and that inspires me to do it. There's actually a few really good writers. Like, I'm more impressed by writers than performers in battle rap. Um, and and there's a few where when I think I've been burnt out, I'll see that they spent an entire round on this very unique detail about somebody. You know, it might even be like, why do you, this isn't a real example, but you know, you always wear collared shirts, and somehow they made that a 24 bar epic roast session that they pulled out all these hidden meanings, and I'm seeing into your soul just because you're too afraid to wear, you know, a regular tee or whatever. Like, what, you know, if somebody can pull that off, something that feels like a bad idea, and they make it something special, then I'm like, ooh, that's why I like battle rap. Like, let's go. I want to find one of those angles, right? So that's what I look for in others and what inspires mine, and what I need to see, what I need from myself in a battle is, I want to know that I felt so comfortable and so in my bag that there was a moment where I could fully veer away from what I planned on doing, even if it's just for a moment. Something happened in the audience, and I want to do a freestyle about it right now, because I feel so comfortable now that I can get right back to it. If I get to that point in a battle, which usually happens, it's usually not in the first round because there's still always nerves. But once I get to that point, I was like, I've done my job, because I feel like I have my performance in the palm of my hand. I feel like I have the room in my hand, right? That's something that I always need. And going into it, this sort of refers back to what I like about other battlers, but like, I need to be walking in with at least one angle or scheme that I'm real excited about, because I'm like, this is the thing people haven't seen before, and I have one for them today. You know, like, I don't like going into a battle without that. So yeah, I'd say that's what I need out of it. There was actually in my last battle, I was doing this rhyme scheme off. He has a slogan that's like, "Let me introduce myself. I don't need to prove myself. I already proved myself." So like, I'm rhyming off of that. Like, you know, your slogan is stupid, Nels. You know, it sounds like insecurities, like justifying your future L's. But that was the rhyme, the una L. And just to transition into the next thing, I said, "You're delusional," right? Instead of delusional, and people got a laugh, and it got a laugh, right? And that wasn't what that wasn't what made me feel like I'm in my bag. It got a laugh, and I just immediately was like, it's French. Not planning on saying it, but then it got a big laugh, and then I repeated it and leaned into the L. Like, yes, that was a silly stretch of a rhyme, but things were going so well, and I felt so comfortable just yes-anding the laugh that it got, that I was like, oh, I'm doing my job well, because I'm so comfortable right now. Whereas maybe if that had happened in the first round, I would have been like, yeah, I know it's a stretch, right? But just to like be like, it's French, be silly about it, be flippant about it, just means that you're comfortable.
Yeah. So like, something I didn't know about or understand was the idea of run it back. And so when I went to Caroline's, and it's like, that is, as far as I know, the only form of entertainment where you can be like, hold on, please say that again, because I enjoyed it so much. I need to hear you deliver that line one more time. As a performer, that's got to be like the greatest fucking high on earth. Like,
oh, it's so cool. And I resisted it for a while too, because as a viewer, or even as a performer, I used to be so much about the replay value on video, so I wouldn't repeat stuff back. There was even I used to even be like, I don't repeat whenever it would happen, but there is this high of you run it back and the crowd says the line with you. That is a really cool feeling that, you're right, doesn't really exist in other things.
Yeah. And it's like, there's always this tension, and particularly with comedians. I was talking to a good buddy of mine. Does the name Oscar Collazo sound familiar?
It rings a tiny bell in my head.
He's another stand-up in New York. We worked in restaurants together ages ago. But something he was explaining is like, there's now this tension because you constantly need content to put on the internet, but that's all of your jokes. It's all of your content. And jokes,
Mm-hmm.
punchlines, like there are diminishing returns. It's never going to
Yeah.
hit harder than that first time, and possibly that second one delivered in person. And you have this tension of like, how much of my stuff do I share and kind of give away for
Yeah.
the sake of the internet and kind of like digital growth, versus how
Mm-hmm.
much am I creating the experience for the people in this room and honoring that they paid money and they're in these seats. And like, I don't
Yeah.
think you win that game necessarily, but it's fucking chess. Like, it's so interesting how you have to just be thoughtful about where content goes and how it's deployed to build the different things you're trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a fascinating thing to try and like keep track of, because also I find as a comic, like I'm even thinking about it on I have a show tonight where I've seen people post clips from this room and it looks great. So I'm like, ooh, I want a clip. So I'm like trying to build a set of jokes that I haven't posted video of, but I also
Mm,
know that when you like try to write your set for the clips, like you're sort of jinxing yourself. You're not it's like you still gotta serve the people there. You still
yes.
like your video is gonna look best doing what's best for the room you have, and so you
Yes.
got to find that balance where it's like, okay, I want to do some material that I need clips of, but if that's my whole set or if that's my whole mission, then I'm not actually going to be serving the audience, and then the clip will be bad. So yeah,
Mm,
it
I
is
love that.
tricky.
Um, I like I'm mentally holding space for like, so battle rap, and now you do like 12 things, and I want to hear the evolution of like how you kept adding those to your plate. But before that, like, something I think we share in common is delight in taking language and finding all the ways to fuck with it, to bend it, to break it, to
Yeah.
rearrange it, to find the double meanings, to find synonyms, etc. And like,
Hmm.
um between battle rap and stand up, like that art form is so important to both. So I'm curious, like, are there differences in the way you bend language for battle rap versus how you might bend it for stand up? Or is it like it's the same practice and it's just deployed in two different spaces?
Yeah. I do think that it's related, but where it's very different to me is in battle rap. As long as it's structured well, your wordplay can be the whole joke. That can be the impact, right? Um,
Mm,
and sometimes it's really like poignant, heavy stuff, but sometimes it's just honestly a dad joke that you rhymed and aimed at somebody, and it made the crowd go berserk because the way you framed it like had impact instead of it feeling just like a corny dad joke.
yeah.
And whereas at least for me, when I write stand-up material, I do have plenty of bits where the concept is a little bit word nerdy, but at least when it comes to double entendres and puns, I need to know that my bit, that the whole joke works without it, and then I'll let myself pepper it in. It's something that for myself I call like dancing on the way to the punchline. And so it's
Mm,
like um so I would say that me being a huge word nerd helps support and add my flavor to what might otherwise be sort of run of the mill observational angles on social dynamics or whatever. Uh, but um, but at least for me, I I try not to, at least on the like double entendre side, build a whole joke out of it. But again, it's you have to lean into what's authentically you. So like one of my jokes that's where the clip's done better than any other stand-up clips is me talking about how on top of all of the reasons that we all agree with to hate the KKK, they're also idiots for not including the fourth K because they're the knights of the Ku Klux Klan, and I break down how moronic that is, but in a very like silly way, like a whole presentation on the silent K and all that. And that's a very like word nerdy thing to do.
totally.
Um, but it's absolutely me. It's absolutely how I observe the world. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things where it is a similar instinct, but it's in very different rapping. Like in battle rap, the wordplay can be the gift, and what you're wrapping around it is rhyme scheme and context and delivery. Uh, and in stand up, at least for me, the like overall content and message and observation is the present, and the wordplay is sort of the gift wrap I put on it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
100%. I went to a comedy show a couple weeks ago, and it was a tough room. Boulder's an interesting space. Speaking of sensitivities, and it was not in a comedy club. It was in a brewery. It was kind of like a pop up thing.
Yeah.
But this guy's punchlines were so many of them were derived around wordplay. And it's not that the jokes weren't good or that the wordplay wasn't clever. It's he kept stepping on the laugh, and people were like trying, like following him. And then in classic comedy, like take them left and then go right, which means the brain is like, wait, hold on, like let me follow
Yeah.
you there. But because there was that added wordplay, it was like double time. And so like everyone's processor is like going slowly. And he would announce his disappointment that he wasn't getting a laugh before anyone had a chance to laugh. And like,
Yeah.
it's not, he didn't do anything wrong. He's a talented guy. But I just was like, just wait, like just wait long enough to let people soak in, because you're being super thoughtful and clever, but people don't have time to appreciate it before you've already told us we didn't appreciate it the right way.
Yes, and especially when you're doing material like that, like something that all comics agree with is that you need to get to the point where you're comfortable with silence. But I think that going a step further, when that's the kind of material you do, you can wield silence. You can weaponize the pause to make people take an extra second about what you said. When you own silence confidently, and you know you just said something where there's something to get, but they didn't immediately get there, like almost insisting on having that pause is going to get them there, and then there'll be a ripple effect because one person's going to react like aha, or I get it, or whatever their form of laughter or arrival is, and then other people are going to be like, there was something to get there, then they find it. And there is something about just like, it's not just being comfortable with silence, wield silence, like that can be part of the joke.
Yes, ownership of the space.
Yeah.
Because if you show that you are completely comfortable standing there when it's totally silent, and that you don't need their laughter to feel good about how you're performing or how you're feeling, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
like this is all part of the experience I'm creating for you.
Yeah.
It's it's good. It's good when people can do that. So we're time traveling now. Like you were writing rhymes from the time you were in elementary school, rap group in ninth grade, got right into grind time in the battle scene 2010, 2011. So
Hmm.
you've certainly put in your time. Now you're in New York and you do stand up, you do improv, you do
Yeah.
workshops, you do all the things. So like you don't have to give us like the blow by blow, but how did you get from like Orlando grind time battle rap to aspiring to New York full time very, very soon with this kind of like panoply of different skills that you wield?
Yeah, I mean, part of what inspired me to do various things was early on in me taking, like, making music very seriously and wanting to make it my full time was like, well, then I need to get on the road. And I was part of another rap group, and we were real inspired and passionate. We did a summer living out in LA, but we knew that part of growing was, well, if we want to be valuable in the city that we came up open micing in, then we need to get out of the city so we can come back to it with value instead of being taken advantage of, right? Which is sadly just part of, any place you grow up in. When they've seen you as an amateur, they don't really treat you as a professional. Um, so, so we were like, we need to get on the road, but we're not high in demand. We don't have agents. So the way that we would be able to, like, for instance, get from Orlando to like Vancouver, other side of the country, we're not going to play enough shows to get us there of just our music. But if we can book 3, 4 little hole in the wall shows along the way, but I'm also going to do some rap battles. I'm also going to contact improv theaters and teach a freestyle class. I'm also going to bring my mic, laptop, and MIDI keyboard so I can produce and record for friends that are artists along the way, because that's what I went to school for. And basically we started calling it like our 6 different rap jobs, like our 6 different rap jobs, including freestyling on the street eventually, which turned into the company I have now. But like, it was all like, we can't tour off one thing, but we're determined to get on the road. So between these 6 different things, we can fill up a route. and sort of sustain and build our craft and build our connections and try to increase our value. And so that inspired the idea of doing a lot of things. And then from then on, it was like each bigger goal I felt like could benefit from adding new tools and things to, to excite me and also to be more valuable in these other spaces. So when my freestyle group, Free Daps, when we were starting to do more video content, but like on the street freestyle stuff, we'd watch back the game tape and we'd be like, all right, the freestyles are pretty good. Clearly we were a little nervous to be on camera, but the freestyles are there. But the like interview parts, when we're trying to like talk to people, it still feels too live show Disney on the street performer kind of like energy, and we want it to be more conversationally funny. We want it to look more natural. And two things that I've always loved, adored, had a lot of reverence for, but hadn't made time to pursue were stand-up and film acting. And I was like, well, now that we're doing video stuff, I think that if I spend time in stand-up and like film acting classes, that I can sort of find a more natural voice that's going to benefit us on camera. And as soon as I dipped my toe in, I was like, oh, I love this as much as anything I've ever done. I couldn't stop writing and hitting mics and just chasing down every opportunity I could. I full send on that, and doing acting classes, and those were things that now obviously benefit me because as my company's work started being less and less Orlando based, it meant that I could be based anywhere. And if we're going for a shoot for the moon thing, obviously we know the odds in this world of entertainment. But if shooting for the moon is how you get to a higher level of sustainability somewhere, I was like, then I need to spend time in New York. I want to live in New York. I want to be full time in New York. It started increasing in my excitement about it. And so just the fact that I can get in the door with stand up, and make that lead to freestyle for the company and these other things. I know this answer's a bit rambly, but it all built on itself to be like, I want to have this tool belt that says that for myself, for my team, and for the sake of not burning out on any one thing so I can stay good at these things, I just needed to have a variety of skills that I was passionate about. And that's sort of what is the only reason I'm able to sort of make this leap to New York and feel like it's gonna last.
For sure. I love your answer. And it's because like there are a select few human beings who have a linear path. And it's because they have genuine clarity on maybe not even who they are, but what they want to do from the jump. And like, spoiler alert, it is not the people who go to med school. Like, Dave Chappelle comes to mind of like, he got on stage at 16. That was it. He was good. He was going to do that forever. And so like his path is all one of like, I was pursuing the thing and I pursued it with my whole self for 40 years. And now I'm here. Right. Yeah. I think for the rest of us, the process is a lot more like, I did this. I loved 2 parts of it. I hated 7. So I'm like, where can I do more of the 2? I went over here. Like I got 2 new ones, but I lost 4. And then I fucking backtracked. And then you go here, and then you go here, and then you go here. And like, it's a fucking snake. And I want to choose my words thoughtfully. I trust those paths more because like it is earned wisdom. Like, you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, and you're knowing the source that it came from, both the inspiration of what you had done and what you were aspiring toward, what worked and what didn't. And like that, it takes fucking time. It just takes time.
Yeah, no, 1,000%, 1,000%. And also like, obviously nobody in life ever wants to feel like they're a quitter or that they, leave ideas half done. And there is a huge skill and value to completing stuff that you're doing. But I also was reminded in the last year of the value for like people who work in creative spaces to chase the shiny thing, because your best work is inspired work. So sometimes you're only gonna like get halfway through finishing this album or writing this piece, and you hit a legitimate stopping point. It's not going to be half done forever, but something else is shiny. You're going to go do that well, and when that album or special is shiny again, you're going to finish it better than you would have had you like just sort of forced yourself in a tedious way to get there. But it is, again, it is the balance, because then you don't want to be that guy that's got 20 unfinished projects. But also just reminding yourself, inspired work is the best work, and sometimes that means chasing something else for a second and coming back to it.
Yeah. It's like there's a fun duality there, because it's like it's path of highest excitement, right? Like where your energy is most spiked is where you're going to get the best work and like the most bang for your buck. Because the best is when you're doing work that fills the cup. Like that's when you're unstoppable. If you're doing things you're like, it just makes me want to go harder. Ooh, get the fuck out of the way. Because like that is a dangerous person. But also if you get to a point where you're like, I keep getting to 85% and I can't get anything across the finish line, it's like, ooh, I might have undiagnosed fear around being seen or attracting celebrity or having someone judge my work. And like, okay, cool. So I'm following my creative urges. I'm doing the shiny thing, but I'm limiting myself by not having the confidence to reveal myself or share my work or do these things. And like understanding where the desire to put something down and pick something else up is actually coming from. Again, it's like that becomes a superpower for you as a creative. Please allow me to briefly interrupt my wonderful conversation to let you know about a few things that we have coming up. I have 2 shows on deck. One is on February 23rd up in Boulder. It is with So Far Sounds, which means the location is actually undisclosed. You buy your ticket the day of the show. They will send you an email with the official location. They're always in really interesting spots. It's a great crowd. It's a great community of artists. Highly, highly recommended. And then I have a show on the 10th with Concert. That's Concert at the Roxy, opening up for Flojo. I'm going to be doing brand new sets for both shows, so I'm very excited about them. If you would like tickets or more information, please go to www.jackdawkinsraps.com.
And I actually think that one of the benefits of the short form content that is everything right now, TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts, I think one of the benefits of that is if you find yourself in a position where you always stop at 85% on these big things and you're never putting anything out, well, okay, a way to sort of make sure that it's not about fear of judgment or all those things that you just described is getting in the habit of creating something that you can put out today. Yes. What's something that feels low stakes? I can put it out today, just so that your fear isn't putting out your work, you know? Yes. And you start with something that's a TikTok or a reel or something where it's very, very low stakes. And I think that can help you get to the point where it's like, I want to finish the big thing now because I am in the habit of letting people see my creativity.
Yes. So I'm curious, like, the other beautiful thing about having such a winding path is that normally it leads to days and schedules that have no resemblance to anything remotely normal because they're really built around all the different things you're doing and your own personal rhythms. So I'm curious, like let's fast forward, it's 6 months from now, you're in New York full time, you're sort of pursuing the projects you now have. Like, I want to know what that perfect day looks like. And then like in, call it 5 or 10 years, if everything goes as well as it could, and you're sort of in your dream day, what are those sort of 2 experiences like?
Oh, wow. Okay. So, in my dream day in 6 months, so I'm up in New York, and something that I hardcore learned about myself during COVID is that my best rest happens at the start of the day because I just can't get myself to rest until I hit the pillow once I'm like fully awake. So my perfect day would start healthy with like a workout or something, and then I would probably like, and this sounds weird, but my perfect day would start with like watching an episode of whatever show I'm excited about on Fridays, right? And so I'd be like, sweet, I got my rest in, this is great. And then I would be getting to work. And my perfect day would probably be writing like writing out the new joke I thought of the night before, filming a comedy sketch that ideally would be for a platform that's bigger than just one of my pages. Ideally, it'd be for some sort of a comedy outlet or something. And then I would go, and I'm just thinking 6 months out, so none of this is crazy. Then I would do like a guest spot or some sort of a like low stakes stand-up show where I test out the new joke that I wrote that day, and then I would have a big freestyle rap show with the crew free Daps, probably at Caveat where we do most of our shows monthly, and that would be like the main thing afterwards. And so the idea of like, okay, I took care of my body, I rested, I wrote, I filmed a comedy sketch, I tested the stand-up joke on stage, and then I did the thing that I think is most valuable and most inclusive of my crew, which is the big freestyle rap show. That would be my perfect day. I would sleep really, really well and try to do that as much as I can.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I might replace the gym with basketball. Anyway,
I was going to say, like, it feels like basketball should certainly have a place in there somewhere. So I want to hear the 10-year dream day. But before that, like, how did you discover the insight that resting early in the day worked best for you? Because I don't think I've heard anyone say that, but it makes sense if you just allow yourself to believe that like rest can happen at any time.
So I discovered it during lockdown. So and it makes a little bit of sense because a lot of us creatives, the cycle we're on anyway is we're just creating more at night and sleeping in longer in the morning and all that. And as long as you're getting your hours, it's healthy. But something I realized was, I was at my place by myself for the start of lockdown because my roommate was staying with family, everybody did, binging a lot of TV shows and movies, and we doing a lot of nothing unless you're making a dumb TikTok or Zoom calling somebody. And what I started to realize was that even like my favorite things that I like to watch, at night I'm not really paying attention. I'm pausing to do other things, or I get an idea and I run out to it. But in the morning, if I woke up and like put on like even a bad movie, I could get so invested that like a bad movie could crush me at 10 a.m. I could be getting tissues out at 10 a.m. just because there's something that's like I'm not thinking about the rest of my life yet. Like I was like my brain was vulnerable enough or was sort of available enough to get kidnapped by this thing. And I'm the kind of person where I can't really watch TV or film passively because that doesn't give me what I need. I need an escape. I need rest, right? So I almost exclusively watch things where I need it to take me away because otherwise it wasn't restful. And I so badly need rest to do the non-rest things well. So yeah, I was just like, wow, I've noticed this effect. I'll get excited about like, oh, I'm binging through Marvel or I'm binging through whatever it is. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to watch this movie on this night. I'm going to do it at 8 p.m. And then I don't enjoy it because my brain's on and so anyway, once I sort of like discovered that, I was like, well, if rest is so important to being productive, then maybe I need to flip the order of my day, start my day with rest so that it can actually feel restful. And then for the rest of the day, I just know I'm awake, I'm on, let's create, let's send those emails, let's make those calls, let's film that video, let's edit. Awesome. And then the productivity will exhaust me enough to hit the pillow. And so.
Yeah. And it gets you out of that. Like, I think something a lot of people struggle with is that you wake up and you're not even out of bed and you're already in it. You're checking your email, you're checking your DMs and your mentions, you're looking at social media and you're like, fuck, I got to respond to that. I got to make this thing. Shit, I forgot about this thing yesterday. And like, you're like, to your point, like you are hijacked from that point. Yeah. And because we live in a universe where like to-do lists never end. I have not gotten to bed in the last 10 years having completed all the things in my life that I need to finish, right? Which means like if you start at 7 a.m., you can be that frenetic until the moment you fall asleep, and then you wake up and you do
Yeah.
the whole fucking thing again. And it's a
Yeah.
hard cycle to break.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And it's funny. I'm absolutely a caffeine addict, but I don't let myself have it before noon. And it's partially for that, for two reasons. One, I want to at least feel like I have enough power over it that I don't need it from the jump.
Yes.
But then number two, I want to be in that space where I can just be restful. And then so when I'm done with whether it's one or two episodes of something, or if I'm doing a whole movie, whatever it is, to like start my day, I'm having a coffee at the end of it, and now let's go. Let's 100 miles an hour after that. So
amazing. Yeah. Okay, 10 years, 5-10 years, whatever it is, like magical. Like, I assume you're still in New York City, but maybe you already know that that's not the case. Like, what's the day like?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I do feel it's like I'm hoping that New York remains a bigger and bigger and bigger part of what I'm doing, and I think that it will. It feels the energy, the connection, all of that is great. But I also never want to give up my place in Orlando, just because it's also like my heart, my community, my parents and sister, and my new niece. Like, I just became an uncle. Like, all that's here. So thank you. I worked very hard to make sure my sister found a husband. No, but so I don't know exactly where I'll be, but I know that a lot of my work will be New York based. And so 5 to 10 years, the dream is that Free Daps has had 2 years of something that resembles either a television or streaming presence or a large-scale residency, something that takes like authentic freestyle rap that also can be punchy enough and technically skilled enough to really work on video. And so we've had at least a couple of years of that has sort of elevated the whole team to a place of sustainability that based on being part of Free Daps, they can find work for their other passion projects and find themselves in writing rooms or recording booths or on their own tours or whatever it is. And then ideally, and again, every comic wants to do this, so this isn't an original thought, but there are specific specials I want to make. Not just because I like the jokes in it, or not just because I want to be the guy on stage, but like there are like concepts and angles and things that I want to say in addition to making people laugh and in addition to doing freestyle rap as part of a comedy special that I like really, really want to make happen, that I want to see in the world. And because I have the idea, I'd like to be the one to make it. And so in 5 to 10 years, there's been 2 years of Free Daps being sort of at a peak, one special, and I get to the point where instead of having to be on the road like 100 to 200 days a year to like, keep the lights on, that maybe I'm on the road like 6 weeks out of the year, 6 to 8 weeks out of the year. And the rest of that time, I picture myself in a basement recording studio, writing and producing for other artists with like a baby crib next to me. Like, that's been the dream forever, is like, I'm writing, I'm recording, mostly for others while I'm being the stay-at-home dad. And then I go out and I, film a 3-week Free Daps tour where every show gets filmed to be a special later that year. And so we knock that out. And, I'm doing spots when I can as a stand-up, but like, I actually get to have a home life. That's the dream.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And it's, yeah. I think what's going to be really exciting, particularly in the post-COVID world, is I think a lot of people are being a lot more bold about carving a life that is more specific and individual. Like, COVID sort of broke the idea, like, it has to be this way. It's like, it fucking doesn't, obviously. Like, we just found 78 new ways to exist and communicate and shop and do all the things. So let's collectively agree that the idea that it has to be done this way is bunk. And we can instead say, like, if I'm someone who rests in the morning, if I'm someone who wants a family life, if I'm someone who gets bored very easily, I see you, my brother. I'm the same way. Like, I need to have 7 different things happening all at once. Like, great. I can build a life and an infrastructure and a team and a family that is all aligned around those values and those ideas, and it can be beautiful. It may not work for literally anyone else on earth, and it doesn't have to. There's no need.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to. One of the things that inspired me most is there's a guy, he's an incredible rap artist and freestyler, and he works with us. His name is Matt Ills, and before he and I were even friends, I was like brand new, a kid in the hip hop scene, and he was giving some advice to a bunch of like upcoming MCs, and it was just a really simple thing. He was like, you cannot name any two success stories that are exactly alike. So if you are aiming for somebody else's path, you're on the wrong one. Like the only successful like paths are ones that are unique to them. So there is something good about like, if it's not following a formula, while you might be completely off and crash and burn, you also have a better chance of being right than just following someone else's footsteps, because you're not going to fit those shoes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And the other piece to that I find very true for myself is like, you get to choose between two tensions. One tension is I don't know exactly where I'm going or how this is going to work, but I'm trusting my instincts and my intuition, and I have that to come back to. And the other one is like, I have the steps because someone else did them first and I'm following them, and I constantly feel pulled away from them, and I have to drag myself back to something that I know doesn't feel right. And like, you're going to pick a version of pain. Neither one is going to be comfortable, because don't get me wrong, like running blindfolded, not fucking fun. Like not low stress by any means, but it is a choice. And so if you want to see where you're going while there's a magnet actively pulling you off the path, you can totally do that. Or if you want to strap on the blindfold and prod your way through the darkness for a little while, you can do that. But there is no version where it is a painless, effortless, easy breezy skip. At least that I've found. If anyone has it, call me.
100%. I mean, think about any like iconic singer, like the ones that like truly, you know, stand alone or have been a big deal. Anybody from your I mean, Whitney's, Mariah's, but even you know, your Elton Johns, but more recently your Beyonce's, Rihanna's, Adele's, Sam Smith's, Justin Timberlake, whoever, right? These like big iconic artists. Every time one of them popped, there was like 2 or 3 years of a bunch of artists that sounded like that style that had like a 6-month run and then fell off. They all sort of, and that's sort of the thing is if you go and do exactly what this other person did, it might be a shorter path. It's a shorter path to a shorter career. Yes. You know what I mean? Whereas like having your own voice like is harder, but is a lasting thing, because then it is your lane.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I want to switch gears a little bit to free Daps and to the shows you're doing. Because again, so the podcast is all about like the art of performance, and the true goal is so that anyone listening, and I would like tour guides, singers, chefs, anyone who is in front of people creating an experience, you are a performer. So doing a show that is freestyled, like introduces a lot of variability, volatility, part of the fun and the joy of the show, assuredly. But like when you are thinking about that type of performance, when you don't know exactly what you're saying or exactly how it's going to go or all the choreography, like what does it look like to prepare for that? Do you have any like, are there nets that the audience can't see so that it goes really off the rails, you can pull it back? Like, I'm just curious, how do you think about a performance like that?
Yeah, I mean, the preparation for it is a combination of not just developing the skill, developing chemistry with the people you're working with, which is why there's a lot of tremendous freestylers out there who are just solo acts, because it is in many ways a harder element to go back and forth with somebody, to develop a chemistry, to not just be a good freestyler, but to be a good listener while you're freestyling. So that's part of the prep, because what Free Daps does is like we put freestyle into a lot of different contexts. So knowing the game structures, right? That's a big part of prepping. But then once you know that you have those pieces, then you sort of gotta let everything else just fly and just trust it and sort of dive dive without a safety net. Because I do think that in a live show that like especially in a live show, because this doesn't always look good on video, but in a live show, people like to see you sweat for a second because that's the tension that then the release of finding a rhyme or recovering or whatever has to it. So I actually think that safety nets can be a hindrance in a live setting. Safety nets obviously are better for video, which is why most freestyle TV stuff is 1,000% fake, and I'll say that as publicly as anybody wants. And it's very talented people, but I also know you're writers, so yes. But those safety nets are needed for video quality. But I'm so passionate about the live side, and so the other way that I am trying to think about it too is I have to have, even in a silly comedic freestyle rap show, I need to have a little bit of that battle rap itch of I want to top the last line I just said, or even though we're all here to make each other look good, I'm gonna make sure I never look bad by not elevating when I see my partner elevating. You know what I mean? And so that's part of the awareness too. Some of us have the Jordan Poole effect, where depending on who's in the audience, we perform a little better. Yeah, it's funny. I'm not sure I have a good succinct answer for it, but it's a lot of just trust that you've prepared well, and preparing for it really is just knowing the general framing of what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And then you have to really let yourself fully improvise how you paint within those lines.
No, it's a beautiful answer. And there's a subtext to what you're saying that I love, which is because you said, I want to make sure I top my last line. You did not say, I want to make sure I top everyone else's line. And at the core of any performance is trust. Even if you've all been on stage for months memorizing your lines, the only way it works is if you are in your body and your character, because you trust that the other person is going to deliver. And the reason freestyle shows can be so good is because if you shine, it does not mean that someone else can't shine or looks worse. They instantly look better by association because it's the same fucking team. And it only makes them want to go harder and find their next level. And you're supporting and building each other. You are not actively eating your airspace on stage. It's multiplicative.
100%. It's I get real excited by, every now and again, even around guys that I've been freestyling with for years, every once in a while you see somebody get into a pocket or in a zone where you're they are crushing it right now. And that's exciting because it's is that what we're doing? We're doing that right now, and my turn's coming up. Let's go! I'm here with you. You're the only. Sometimes it feels like the only way some of us will go 100 miles an hour is to see somebody starting to go 100 miles an hour, and we're let's go, let's get there in 10 minutes instead of 20. And that's a really fun thing, and I'm glad that my group sort of has that spirit. There's an easy tell in other freestyle settings when somebody is feeling the opposite, when they're doing a back and forth, but they either don't want the other person to look good or there's some insecurity. This is the easy tell that audiences don't think about, but is freestylers notice and hate. Is you're starting to say your punchline before their turn, and they start coming in with yo, yeah, on top of you saying your line, right? With the which is a normal thing to say yo or yeah or whatever it is to get yourself into it, but freestylers that want the other person to look good will let their punchline land before they start speaking into the mic, and the ones that want you to look bad are going to step on your rhyme and in a way that just looks normal, and it's not. It's intentional, even if it's subconscious, and it's disrespectful. Anyway, that's just a little tell that people don't talk about.
Oh, that's fascinating, and it's true, right? And I talk about a delicate line because part of what can make freestyle so fun is its flow. is
Yeah.
like the seamlessness of the passing back and forth. But part of reading that is knowing the timing, knowing the body language, knowing the personality, maybe even like knowing where the route of the punchline is going. And again, creating the space for it. And then hopefully like you want to carry momentum. So like that punchline's coming out 100 miles an hour. Great. You don't need to hit a new ball. You don't need to change directions. Like you just want to keep that ball moving at 100 miles an hour. That's your whole goal. And if you're stepping on someone, if you're cutting into it, you're trying to slow the ball down. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Keep that shit moving at 100 miles an hour because that's what everyone wants to see.
100%. And like, and again, that's one of the reasons I'm passionate about the crew that we have. And for any listeners or viewers, anybody that's seeing this that's not familiar with the crew, and I don't even care about necessarily promoting me, but what's exciting about the crew is that it is actual, like, have put in the 10,000 hours over and over and over as battle rappers, as improvisers, as artists, as musicians that are doing really punchy, quick hit, but completely interactive, hilarious, making everybody look good freestyle rap show that has an arc to it. There's going to be love songs. There's going to be battles. There's going to be even some like scenic stuff. We're going to use our like knack for wordplay in contexts that aren't even rap form at parts of it. And it is such a blast. And it's one of those things where what we're so proud of is that while it succeeds in general audience settings, it succeeded at Disney and in libraries and at colleges. It also is fully true to the environment of like, you put this in a hip hop festival, a battle rap event, anything like that, and it's going to hit just as hard as it did with the uninitiated for hip hop. You know what I mean? And that's something that matters a lot to us because we think that there are we're obviously passionate about freestyle, and we think that unfortunately there are really, really talented freestylers and freestyle groups where they've had to choose one or the other demographic. They're either just super true to the art form, or they don't work with the hip hop heads. They only work with the like families that, you know, didn't like rap before. And we are so passionate about being the guys that work for both.
Yeah. This may be a strange question. Like, was there a journey for your family, for your parents of like, so Isaac is a battle rapper? Interesting.
Man, it's funny. So my parents are so sweet, and they're so like, again, there's no chance that I would be where I am if I didn't have like absurdly unicorn level supportive parents. But because I don't know, I'm not even sure I wouldn't want my kids to do this path. Like I hope that my kids do some sort of a job where they can just be a professor in that field. Like just great. Like have your stability. But or illusion of it. but yeah, so my parents are very sweet, but I did get them to admit later on that they thought the rap thing was going to be a phase. But because they sort of watched the journey, and because it started in the spaces that they raised me in, because like I did start in the church environment. My first shows were at youth groups and stuff like that. And so they sort of watched the arc, and then they would come to rap battles and stuff, and they'd be so nice. I'd be like, what'd you guys think? They'd be like, well, I liked your parts, you know, like, it's so beautifully sweet. But I think that because they were witness to it, it made sense when it crossed that line from hobby into like a full-on pursuit. And that's cool, because I think that there's probably a lot of situations where a parent wasn't against it, but because they didn't stay connected to that child's dream when it became a bigger deal, there was just this like, there wasn't an understanding of it. There was this, I don't necessarily have the words for it because I don't want to disparage any parents that are just doing their best, but there is something about like, even when you don't like the dream or the passion that your kid is like leaning into, still be there with them, because you're at least going to understand where it goes and why it goes there. And I was lucky to have that.
Beautifully said. I have one final question for you, and
Yeah.
I have a theory, which I imagine you will also support, which is that I think the Venn diagram of people who are interested in learning about freestyle and the people who could benefit from learning about freestyle doesn't overlap nearly enough. I think a lot of people could really benefit from just exploring the art form as a methodology of connecting to yourself and expressing without obsessing over outcome, without needing it to be polished, without having to sort of fucking dress it up. So I'm curious, like, what advice or what would you say to motivate, empower, inspire more people to explore freestyle, even if they're like, no, I could never?
Yeah, no, I love this question because it's as if I wrote it for you to ask me that, and we did it. For those listening, we didn't prep a single thing, uh, but but no, that is something I agree with, and that I'm so passionate about, and I love the people who do take the class because I teach a lot of workshops, teach a lot of classes. If you're in New York, I'm teaching in New York at Caveat February 25th, and then that'll ideally be ongoing. So if you're listening to this after that date, hopefully there'll be more. So follow, stay connected. But people take it for all kinds of reasons. Everything from just wanting to try something new, to being genuinely interested in writing music, to being improvisers, to just wanting to get out of their shell. And all those things do benefit and more. Like some of the things that we work on is getting out of your own way, and a lot of it, not fearing failure is like a big part of learning freestyle. So we work on that. We not only work on like rhyme and rhythm and your subconscious rhyme bank, and we work on that, but the stuff that really has ripple effects outside of music is when we teach target rhyming, the idea of how to like set something up and rhyme with it applies to when you're in conversation or you're doing a presentation at work and you don't want to ramble on. So you have these target points that you land on. You set it up instead of like, here's the main thing I wanted to say, and now I'm just going to like support it until I feel like I'm out of words. You flip the order, you support and then land the target of what you wanted to say. And to be able to do that more instinctively, to make that more second nature. And I also think that there's an appreciation for rap that comes from learning some of the technical sides of it. And man, I do wish that more people in the hip hop community would take classes like this. I feel like, something that the hip hop world and the stand up world have in common that don't exist in the music world, in the acting world, in other trades, is that both hip hop and stand up have this attitude of like, it's not real if you learned it in a classroom, right? You can't benefit from the intentionality of working on this with a group, from learning other approaches, from learning. So you just have to sort of be there. You have to grind it out. No, you have to both, or you can benefit from both. And you don't have to do either, but you can benefit from both. The musicians that break the rules best are the ones that know the rules best. So anyway, I think that it really helps people of all walks of life, and I wish that people in the hip hop community could be like, man, I could benefit from learning the technical freestyle side a little bit more. Even if I'm not a freestyler, maybe I could be one, or maybe I'd write better, or whatever. Or this would just be a really fun outlet. And I need something productive to do with my week, and this is the best way to like meet people and work on a fun skill that's in my field.
Yes. There's also like, yes times a billion to everything you just said. And the final caveat I will add, I was going to make a double entendre, we'll let it go, is that because freestyling seems like such an impossibly non-realistic thing to pursue, the extent to which it helps you break out of your perception of what is possible and not possible for you is astronomical relative to the amount of effort you have to put in. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you don't have to try. But if you are an accountant and you learn to freestyle, you look at your ability to create and be creative so differently, so quickly. And that, I think, is a gift that everyone should offer to themselves if you can. It really is a blessing.
Yeah, I don't even think that I'd thought about it in that way, but it's 100% right on, because people think that freestyling is a magic trick, and it's cool that it looks like that. It's actually just a muscle that it's like if I only did back day and now I look like I'm in a turtle shell. It's like, well, I've done freestyle day like 5 times a week for the last 15 years or whatever. So so that's what it ends up, coming out as. But it's not a magic trick, and magic tricks aren't magic tricks. My favorite. This is a weird side note. People don't like knowing how magic tricks are done. I actually think it makes it way cooler to know that a human figured out how to engineer something to appear that way.
Yes.
It is more impressive to know that it wasn't magic.
Yes.
It's because magic is like, well, of course it was magic, but a human did that. That's impressive. And I think the same way about freestyle. So you can learn it.
You absolutely can learn it. Isaac, this was a joy. Where can people find you? Where should they look you up?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social medias. So Instagram, TikTok, Twitter a little bit, and all that. But it's just I'm Isaac Knox. The letters I am Isaac Knox. And that's Isaac with 2 A's, which is how 99% of us spell it, but none of you all spell it that way when we tell you to. So I'm Isaac Knox, and then the crew is Free Daps, a group of freestylers and comedians. We're doing shows monthly at Caveat NYC in the Lower East Side of New York. I'm also starting to teach freestyle workshops there and creating other content. And then we're also on the road a lot. So no matter where you are, you can not only take in video content, but we might be in your city anytime in the next few months. So just, keep up, say hello, send me a DM. I'm accessible. Yeah.
Amazing. Isaac, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey, thank you so much, man. It was great.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening to Stage Dive. I'm having so much fun having all these conversations and meeting these wonderful, wonderful people. But I appreciate that this is also going out to you, the person who is listening. So my request, my ask, my desire, if you have any curiosities, questions, guest recommendations, suggestions for the podcast, please send us an email at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. We read every single email that comes through. We will get back to you. We really do want to hear what you love about the podcast, things that you think could improve, and how we can make this a better show for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.